Yo, what's good with you? Back in black with another Enlisted video. If you guys are new to the channel and you love shooting games just like me, make sure you aim for that like button and shoot that subscribe button as well. It'll help you find better teammates and improve your skill-based matchmaking. Today we are taking a look at the oldest and most refined campaign in Enlisted. Yes, I am talking about Moscow, which features some of the most underrated maps in the game in my personal opinion. Today we will be doing a map tier rating list for this campaign, and yeah man, this might be, I'm pretty sure this is the last one that I have to do, so I'm gonna take my time with this one, and I do want to know what you guys think down in the comment section. So let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? Alrighty, so coming in at number 1, we're going to take a look at the Maisky forestry, which if you ask me, in my personal opinion, is one of the few maps in Enlisted that has truly standed the test of time. Reason I say that is because I have played on this map a countless amount of times, and every time I do play on it, I still find myself having a copious amount of fun. I'm sure you guys too. And to be a little more descriptive, the reason I say this is that this map truly does a really good job of providing you with dynamic gameplay, because obviously in the first couple points you're fighting in open ground, and then you have to cross that river, which does slow you down a very great amount if you are on offense, and it makes it easier for the defenders to pick you up as you're trying to run through the water. But once you actually do get past that, which is a really good obstacle, a natural obstacle to overcome in a game, mind you, I feel like the fighting really, starts to take off, especially when you're fighting in the actual forestry factory. And then even from there, once you get past that close range fighting, which is also very fun to do, and one of the few places where you could actually make use of double barrel shotgun, which is very fun and prevalent and used for the Russian faction. Then you start fighting in the train station, which provides a little more of a medium type of engagement range, if that makes any sense, and provides you with high ground to use those towers to snipe from as well. All that being said, this map is really fun to play on, so I'm gonna have to give Maisky forestry, I was gonna say A, but I think I'm gonna go S tier for this map. That was a pretty good way to start us off. Coming in at number 2, we're going to stop and take a look at Moscow's Fortified district, which if you ask me is another beautifully built, serene map featuring a snowy aesthetic. Also incorporates a good amount of forest fighting, some open fields. We have a good amount of trenches and bunkers that you have to advance through as well. They do call it Fortified district for a reason. That being said, I would say that this map definitely favors the defenders over the attackers. Not that you have a necessarily super difficult time if you are attacking and you know what you're doing. But all that being said, my favorite part of the map is essentially where you have to cross a giant frozen river. One thing that I really like about the Moscow campaign in particular is that it features a lot of bodies of water, kind of like the Pacific, but not done nearly as well. Essentially, probably because this is when the game first came out and this is the very first campaign. But neither here nor there, this map has really good gameplay and balance. That being said, it is really fun, especially when you are on offense and actually making your way through the progression of the map, so you can enjoy the entire aesthetic of what this map has to offer. All that being said, it's really good for tanks, really good for planes. The only part that I would say is not good for tanks is when you get into the city part of the map, and then you can get flanked from multiple angles. But if you're playing with your infantry and use them as support, it's not that bad. Due to all the open ground that's on the map, it's really good for planes, and infantry is obviously really good as well, aside from running through the open fields, which can easily be circumvented if you know how to flank. So like I was saying, all that being said, I'm going to give Fortified district, I'm going to go A for this one, because the frozen body of water or the river that you have to cross at the end doesn't necessarily impact your gameplay, aside from the fact that it's harder to cross open bodies of water where machine guns are shooting at you. So do with that information what you will. Coming in at number 3, we got to stop and take a look at good old Birch Grove. And what I have to say about Birch Grove is that this is one of the more hard-fought maps in the Moscow campaign. The reason that I feel this is evident is because this map incorporates a good amount of close-range fighting through a burned-out Russian village. For that reason, if you are not equipped with the most pristine aim and a bunch of assaulters or machine gunners in your squad, you very well may have a bad time progressing your way through this map if you are on offense. On defense, you'll basically get shredded if you do not have close range capabilities. That being said, this map does not expand into a more open, at least medium to long range kind of fighting environment. environment until you get near the end, which is essentially the last objective that you will typically play on when you play this map. All that being said, it does make for really fun gameplay, especially, you know, the closer the combat is in general. I feel the more action packed, and you know, you can really make good use of your PPSHs. I main the Russians when I play Moscow, so it kind of like really accentuates the fun for me, being able to run through buildings and just mowing down Germans hiding in there with my you know, submachine gun or dinner plate 47, whatever the case may be. But all that being said, this map is really fun to play on. I would not say it has any standout features. It also features a, you know, running river, but it's so shallow it doesn't really have an effect on your gameplay in any way, shape, or form. So I'm gonna give excuse me, I'm gonna give this map, I'm gonna give it a solid, I'm thinking maybe I want to say a B, maybe a B plus. For map number 4, I would kind of like to direct your attention to the gameplay that you are currently watching, because we are talking about Beloe Lake, and I don't necessarily have anything bad to say about this map. It's kind of, the only thing about it is that it kind of reminds me kind of more of the same, if that makes any sense. The reason being is because it's very similar to the middle objectives in Fortified district, and it's kind of similar to Birch Grove in a sense where you're essentially just fighting through a Russian village that is centered around a lake. And my gripe with this map in particular is that a lot of the fighting only centers around the lake for the first or second objective. After that, you're kind of like just running away from the lake, if that makes any sense, which behooves me, because in my mind I'm like, why would you call the map Beloe Lake if the fighting isn't necessarily going to be around the lake the whole time? I guess maybe it is on Conquest, but we don't get Conquest as a game mode that pops up maybe but like once every 100 games, so it's not something that I get to experience very often. And I just feel like for Invasion in particular, maybe the capture points should go around the lake in maybe like a circle, or maybe some kind of format that keeps the fighting around the lake, because using water or having water incorporated into your gameplay is something that Enlisted does more than a lot of other games. I mean, I've seen games here or there trying to do it more and more, but the way Enlisted does it, you can really use that lake to get some good flanks off if you see a tank near the water, or if you just want to snipe from the other side of the lake. That would make it very effective as well, because I've seen that here and there, and I've done it myself on occasion. But again, the fighting is not really centered around the lake. It's decent for tanks, it's decent, it's actually pretty good for planes, but I just feel like, again, the structure of the map is not really where I thought it was going to be, considering the name of it. So I'm going to have to give Beloe Lake, maybe, I'm thinking like a C plus or a B minus, but I'm probably going to roll with a C. Moving on to map number 5, we're going to stop and take a look at one of everybody's personal favorites, and yes, I am talking about Monastery, which very well may be one of the hardest, if not the hardest map to play on in Enlisted. And I'm sure a lot of you guys will attest to this, mostly because when the fighting gets around the actual monastery, things do get very difficult, especially if you are an attacker. This seems to favor the defender as well, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because I actually here and there do like maps that offer you a challenge in just the way the map is actually designed. I don't really, you know, some maps should be offensive leaning, some maps should be defensive leaning, have a nice little balance going on there. But yeah, man, like I was saying, the monastery actually makes me feel like I'm fighting over something grand in Enlisted, which is a really good feeling to have. A landmark that is so big that it has multiple capture points inside of it, so that just goes to show how well designed it is, and you know how they want you to feel when you're actually in the monastery fighting. All that being said, it's not so great for planes. It's decent for tanks if you can actually get your tank inside the monastery without being blown up first. But all that being said, as far as infantry gameplay is concerned, you could literally have an entire map based on the monastery by itself and it would still be a good map. So I'm gonna have to give Monastery an S tier. It's just a really good map to play on and really fun as well. Let me know what you guys think about that one. Next map that I wanted to talk about for the Moscow campaign offers you a really big change up as far as the aesthetic is concerned, and we are talking about Quarry, which is a big departure from the snowy or drab aesthetic or atmosphere that you would normally get in the Moscow campaign. This map features a lot of tones of brown and sunset atmosphere, maybe sometimes even sunny afternoon, whatever the case may be. So like I said, aesthetically this map is a really big change up, so I'm going to give it a lot of points for that. It does feel and look very different to play on. Another thing that I really appreciate about the Quarry map is that it offers wide variety in changes of elevation. So typically you know, you're fighting on a flat plane most of the time, and there are very rarely changes in elevation or hilltops to fight on. But in the Quarry, obviously, since this is like a giant dugout, if that makes any sense, there are lots of hills and mounds of dirt that you can take position on to snipe from, or use your Mosin Nagant, whatever the case may be, Car 98, however you want to look at it. This map is also really good for planes. It's really good for tanks as well. There's a lot of open ground to be fought over if you're not behind these I guess you could say mounds of dirt to use as cover in the actual Quarry. And yeah, man, I don't think there's anything too crazy to say about Quarry aside from the changes in elevation. I think that's the main draw for that map and like how it plays, if that makes any sense. But I'm going to give Quarry a solid B. Moving on down the list, we do have to stop and take a look at Vysokovo village, which is one of the true classics as well when it comes to this game. And this is the map that I definitely want to go to when I want to get my fix on for like some really good close quarters trench fighting, because this is essentially the map that embodies that, if that makes any sense. Especially on the first point, each and every time you will be stuck in those trenches fighting it out, getting shelled by artillery and probably getting flanked by a bunch of infantry and tanks. So make sure you mark your targets. That being said, there's nothing that is essentially too crazy about this map or like a, you know, notable standout feature, but just the way that it's made in general. Again, if you really want to get your fix on as far as trench fighting is concerned, definitely the best map for it. So for that reason alone, I'm gonna have to give Vysokovo village another solid, well actually no, I take that back. I'm gonna give Vysokovo village an A tier. Really good map. I feel like I'm getting a little wrong-winded here, but we do got a few more maps coming up. The next one I wanted to talk to you guys about is the Voskhod settlement, which is another one of my personal favorites because this one features a lot of close-knit, tight engagements, a lot of CQB, if that makes any sense, which is kind of rare for the Moscow campaign unless you're like actually fighting on one of those city maps, which is not something that is very prevalent for these guys in this campaign. But neither here nor there. The Voskhod settlement actually has us attacking a military emplacement, which, you know, basically gives them room to do a lot with the type of buildings that we get to fight in, whether that be a mess hall or some barracks or an actual guard tower with a sniper perch that you can use. Whatever the case may be, you will have a blast and get to use all types of fully automatic and close quarters weaponry to great effect in this map. And it's really good for planes as well, in my personal opinion. The tank thing is kind of up in the air. Again, that kind of just really depends on if you have a good team supporting you or not. But nevertheless, I would argue that Voskhod settlement, especially since it's one of the newer maps that was added after the Moscow campaign initially came out, I would say that they put a lot of thought and energy into how they wanted this map to play, and as such they did a really good job because it plays really well, and it's one of my personal favorite maps to see pop up whenever I am playing this campaign. So I'm going to give Voskhod settlement a solid S tier as well. One of the few maps to earn that. Getting towards the end here, we gotta stop and take a look at Pokrovskoe city, which is just something about these city maps for Enlisted that kind of gets me, man. Like, every time I play on this map, I literally never have anything bad to say about it, especially as it pertains to the Moscow campaign, because most of that is kind of predicated around fighting in the countryside or like maybe these small little villages or whatever the case may be. But again, something about these fully fledged city maps in Enlisted is just, it gets me every time. The same thing in Normandy, the same thing in like Berlin and Stalingrad, even though Stalingrad isn't really all that to me. But I just really enjoy fighting in dense urban city environments, especially in World War II, because I don't know, it's just different, and it's such a huge contrast from fighting in the open countryside, which is what you normally expect and what you're normally used to when you play these type of games. So the change up always just does it for me as far as the gameplay is concerned. And obviously city maps will feature a lot of close quarters fighting. tanks are okay on this map if you kind of keep them on the main street and kind of just shoot people as they try to cross the road or whatever the case may be, going from building to building. And this map plays really well for the destruction game mode as well. So you know, I literally have nothing bad to say about Pokrovskoe City, or however you pronounce it, but I'm going to give this map another solid S tier. I can't, it's too good. Second to last map coming up right here, I would like to direct your attention back to the gameplay, because we are now taking a look at Manor, which is another one of those maps that makes you feel like you're fighting over a building that is very grand in scale and obviously very important to the war effort, or at least strategically as it pertains to the particular battle that we are fighting in. But nevertheless, I don't really have anything bad to say about this map either, except that it is kind of hard to play on the assault game mode, because having to capture two objectives at the same time, especially when you're only one person and you typically have to carry a team, is not necessarily something that is easy to do. But as it pertains to the actual design of this map and the design of this game mode on this map, I think it plays very well, and for that reason I'm not going to knock it in any way, shape or form. Aesthetically, I think the map plays very well. You know, on top of that, and actually, when you start fighting around the manor, or when you get in the building, I really do enjoy the close quarters fighting that actually does take place there on top of that. And you know, generally speaking, I would argue that this map is kind of a toss-up whether it plays better on assault or if it plays better on conquest, because that's typically the only other game mode that I will see this map pop up on. So I kind of want to leave this one up to you guys. Do you think this map plays better on assault, or do you think it plays better on conquest? I know people don't generally like conquest, you know, as a whole when it comes to this game, but if I had to play conquest, this is definitely one of the maps that I would want to play it on, because I think the design is definitely there for it. So for that reason, I'm going to give Manor a solid B tier. And last but certainly not least for the Moscow campaign, we got to take a look at the Avangard collective farm, which might be the most OG of OG conquest maps in Enlisted. And I say conquest, but that's really the only game mode that map is available for, and it's quite a shame, because I feel like it would play pretty good for like invasion or, you know, assault as well, but neither here nor there. I feel like I played that map more than I played any other map, especially when it comes to the, you know, conquest game mode. I think like 70% of all conquest games that I have played have been on that map. So in a sense, it's kind of grown on me and, you know, embedded itself in my head, pause, as one of the, like, I guess you could say, best conquest maps in the game, if that makes any sense. So all that being said, as far as, since it's only designed for that one game mode, I guess I don't really have anything bad to say about it, because it plays pretty well. Essentially, you're just fighting over a barn and two houses, or two barns and a house, if that makes any sense. And then there's a bunch of trenches and stuff in the middle of the map too. There's a main road in the middle that's pretty solid for tanks, but you can get flanked on either side, so, you know, do with that information what you will. But all in all, I would say it's a pretty good map. And as far as conquest is concerned, if I have to play that game mode, that's one of the few maps that I would actually not mind playing on. So all in all, going to give the Avangard collective farm, going to give them a I'm thinking an A tier. And yeah, man, that's pretty much it for all the maps in the Enlisted game. You know, I figured I would do this whole series because they be taking a while to add more maps into the game, generally speaking, and I figured, you know, I might as well talk about the ones that are already here and maybe give them a little more inspiration or feedback so they know what they want to do in the future. Funny thing, I also did put a poll out before I made this video about everybody's favorite map in the Moscow campaign. I'll go ahead and flash that up on the screen right now, and you let me guys know what you think. If you didn't vote on it initially, maybe you can take a vote on it now, and just let me know what your favorite map is in this campaign. And yeah, man, let me know your feedback down in the comment section below. I do appreciate you guys for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Don't forget to shoot that like button, aim for that subscribe button as well. It'll help you find better teammates, improve your skill-based matchmaking, and Black Guy out.